Well, welcome everybody to the Be Real, Get Real podcast brought to you by Women's Prosperity Network. I am your host, Nancy Matthews, and I'm one of the founders of Women's Prosperity Network. And we put this podcast together with the purpose and intention of bringing you some real women who've been through real life and have found ways to come through it stronger, better, and more enhanced, and in a place of service. And my guest today, Regena Rosa-Celeste, also known as Regena Ozeryansky, is with us today, and we're going to be having a conversation about how she has turned some messes into successes. Welcome, my friend.
Hi, Nancy. I'm so happy to be here today. I really feel like it's a conversation, and it is with a friend and with so many. And I'm so grateful that I'm in a place that I can talk about my story, my many stories, with confidence and with service, like you said, because I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And we don't always know why when we're going through it, but if we can see the value of sticking, the stick-to-itness, right? That I've heard you say before.
Yeah.
I like that saying because it just reminds me how important it is to trust.
Well, and as you're sharing that, and I'll share a little bit about your background with our audience in just a moment. But as you're sharing that, I think that stick-to-itness is great, but when the crap is hitting the fan, you don't feel like it. Right. So the key is, how do we prepare ourselves for the stuff that's going to come? Because it is like none of us are exempt from yucky stuff happening. None of us. And you've been through quite a bit, and I'm excited about you sharing with our listeners a little bit about your background. So let me share your tidbits of the awesomeness that is Regena. So she is an international speaker, published author, and recovering perfectionist. You too, me too. She specializes in teaching the skills of world peace. She works with conscious men and women to create inner peace, in turn changing the world and how the world experiences peace. She knows that teaching people the tools of inner peace creates world impact, and believes that each person is responsible for their own happiness. By creating more inner peace, there's more abundance in the world, more wealth available, and opportunities to create greater health and deeper connection to everyone's individual life mission and purpose, which creates more sustainable inner peace, creativity, for the collective. So I love your mission. I love what you're up to. It's no surprise we're great friends. There's such alignment in all of that. And so share with our listeners, how do you turn messes into successes? Because it sounds like, taking a pile of garbage and reformulating it or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of surrender and turning over, as I say, like turning over that pile of crap into a work of art. And I'm like the visual that I'm getting, and it's interesting because I get these daily meditations and messages. Right now I'm subscribed to a couple different things, and one of the messages today was about Michelangelo and how he would chip away and create these amazing work of arts. And I think what happens in life is so many of us, myself included, we come thinking, success is something that, not necessarily that it's supposed to come easy, but that it's like a straight line. And it's anything but a straight line. Like there's twists and turns and jagged edges, and it's our job to smooth out those edges. And more importantly, release, I believe, what isn't our best, in order to be the best version of ourselves, it's allowing our best self to shine forward and come through. And that only happens just like an onion, by peeling the layers off of what isn't. And when I think about like pearls in the sea, right, like they come they don't come as pearls. They
No.
come in the form of something else.
Yep. Diamonds don't start off as diamonds, and butterflies don't start off as butterflies, and all of those things, right? Is all
Yeah.
part of it. So if you would share a little bit about the last couple of years for you have been wrought with ups and downs and highs and lows, and the woman that I see before me today doing this interview is actually, for me, the same woman I saw a few years ago, and the diamond was always there, and you found a way, my friend, to come out and shine, to peel away those layers. So share a little bit about what you've been through and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think the most important is that it was more than once, actually twice in my life, and this was within the last 6 years, I hit rock bottom. Like literally, I had what a lot of people would say was great life. I had friends, I had family, I had money in the bank. I had, in my perspective, things that I should have been happy with.
Right. And it looked real good on the outside.
Yeah, like nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew what I was feeling, and I was suffering. And I, like everybody, I've done things that I regret, right? And things that I thought, and that I think now, oh, I could have done that different, right? And I realize now, being who I am, I don't regret those things, because that's who I was at that time in my life, and that's what I needed to do to learn the lessons. So now I'm learning, after going through 2 very deep depressions and hitting literally not just rock bottom, but like there was a time not so long ago where I just wanted to end it all. And I thought life was too hard and I'm not cut out for this, this thing called life. And I want to just hide. And I did for a little while. And I moved away and I went on what I call a vision quest. And I had like my eat, pray, love phase, and came back to Florida and found myself going through a second round, so to speak, of depression and anxiety. And I reached out to really close friends like you and a couple other friends that literally peeled me up off the ground, energetically and emotionally. And it was interesting because while that was happening, both my parents, who I'm very close to, were both ill. My mom was diagnosed with cancer the second time, and my dad, they found a tumor in his brain.
Like when that was happening for you, and I knew what was going on for you emotionally as well, inside of yourself, and then you get, oh, my mom's got cancer, and oh, okay, so let me get through this. Oh, my dad's got a brain like, don't you just sometimes, want to go, really? Come on.
Yeah, like that saying, God only gives you what you can handle. I was like, listen, buddy, like I appreciate the offer, but that's enough. Like, stop, like I'm not interested in any more lessons. Knock it off.
My mother was so funny. It's so funny you say that, because my mother would say, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, right? And then she would go, but do you have to trust me so much? Really? Come on.
Right. Exactly. Don't give me so much credit, God.
Yeah. Right. Well, and then here you are. So one of the things that you said is that you had friends, and mentors and supporters that helped lift you off the ground. And my question is, from my experience, and the little bit of depression that I've had, and then also the many clients that I've supported moving through it, when you're feeling depressed, you hide, like you said, and you could keep up the appearances that everything looks good on the outside. And I think May is Mental Health Month, so I'm glad we're having this conversation now. You may not want to reach out. So how is it that you had friends that could see behind the wall and knew that you needed help? Because that's really an important piece.
Yeah, it's huge. I think, you know, it's interesting because Pat Rogers, I don't know if she knows this, but the day that I spoke, it was May 19th. And 2 days before her event, so I was scheduled to speak at her event, which I did. And 2 days before her event, I remember laying in bed and looking up at the ceiling, and I was going to call her and tell her I can't do it. And here I was having this big dream of speaking one day, and I was in bed looking up at the wall, knowing I'm supposed to speak in 2 days, and I was about to back out of it. And that was my pattern, was backing out of stepping into my next level. And so I asked myself as I was looking up at the ceiling, I can't do this by myself. I need help. And I said, how? And I remember asking myself and having this like dialogue with spirit and saying, how long? The voice wasn't mine. It was like a softer voice. I mean, I guess it was my higher self asking me, how long do you want to suffer? And in that moment, I remember saying, I need help. And I slowly started, like, I had already started talking to a friend about coaching, and she had a similar experience. And her friend, which is crazy, her friend actually took her own life. And so she knew how serious this was and how close to home it was. And I knew that at that time in life, she was going to be the first step I needed to take. And then the next step was telling someone else. And then the next step. And then at one point I reached out to you and I shared with you. And so it was like each little stepping stone got me closer to talking about it. But it was scary. I mean, I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of the stigma. You know, what were people going to say? People were going to think that I was nuts for, you know, oh, just let it go. It's in your head. Yeah, it's in a person's head. It's a dysfunction of their thinking. And it's something that can be corrected. And for me, my choice was not to take medicine. And I probably struggled much longer than I needed to. But when I got to the point where I said, I will do whatever it takes, if it includes even taking medicine, I'll do it. And that's when it changed for me, because I was at a place where I said, this isn't for me to control and dictate, like trying to manipulate. Well, I don't want to do it if I have to take medication. Well, if that's the choice of me living my life or not, I need to take medication, you know?
Right.
So, and you know, the challenge that I have being on this side of it is I know, like you knew, right? And all my friends and those that care about me, my family that knew, even though they didn't know the big scope of it, they knew the little piece that they could see. It is preventable, and it is something that can be corrected. People just need to be willing to look at that part of themselves that's suffering and just tweak it, just communicate, just be verbal and say, I have an issue that I need help with.
Well, and that's a big place of vulnerability, because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be thought we're crazy. And let's face it, unfortunately, there is still a stigma around mental illness. And mental illness has many, many different phases to it and degrees to it. But it's still like, oh no, I'm okay, I'll be fine. You know, being thought that you're crazy, being thought that you're weak. And especially for people who are in the public eye, and aren't all of us in the public eye these days? You know, it's really true. Like, nobody hides anymore. Taking that step is vital. And it's people such as yourself who have the courage to share your story that helps someone who's feeling down and reach out to someone that you know loves you. And I guess that's a place to start. So the first person that you really shared the depth of what you were experiencing who was that?
It was Nicole, and then I know you, Nicole, and Eileen Gottlieb.
Beautiful.
Were the three, and Shannon Gronder. So there was 4 people, and I didn't tell all of it to anybody at first. Like, I didn't know how.
you told a little piece here, a little piece here, because if you told everything, wow, what would I think? Right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a pattern and that people go through as well, because you're still trying to not be 100% vulnerable. So what I heard is reach out to someone who knows that you know loves you, and even if you only share a little bit, that's the beginning of the opening of the door to your healing.
Yeah, and what I'm getting a message that's really important to share too. It's interesting because like life doesn't stop, right? Like you said, like nobody's immune to challenges. And even after all that I went through, there was more stuff, right? Not more depression, but there was more stuff that happened. And thank goodness I had the strength and the courage because of what I had just been through. It was almost like a cakewalk. Like COVID, I'm not saying that it's not like a big deal. It is, but it's almost like, oh yeah, it's just another thing. Like once you get that, and this is where now I'm in the work that I'm doing, is because I have experience with having the opposite. Like life can be so difficult and so up a hill, up a mountain, or we can flow with it and we can fly if we allow ourselves to be supported.
Mm. So share some strategies, tips. There's someone watching right now that needs that upliftment, that needs to find a way to peace. What would you suggest for someone who's listening in right now and is that person staring up at the ceiling?
First, breathe and like really feel it in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And find 3 things that you're grateful for. And then when you find 3, find another 5. And for me, you know, breathing, literally, like in those moments, and especially if a person is having anxiety attacks, which thank goodness I didn't have a lot of those, but I had a couple. I had one at your house, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I was house sitting, and I remember sitting on the couch and I didn't know what to do. And I was texting you and I was like, this is so weird. I don't know what to do right now. My body was having a physical reaction. And to just put your feet on the ground, realize you're alive. And if you're alive for a reason.
Mm.
And when you find out that reason, the whole world is.
Yeah, which is what you've done in turning your messes into successes, and now working with so many people to have them have internal peace. So if I was to kind of listen between the lines, would you say internal peace is the source and solution that got you through this, but being able to find that?
100%, 1000%.
So in the midst of a storm, you know, whether it's COVID or a relationship breaking up or not having money, like where is peace inside of all that? Like I could just think like, oh my God, you know, everything's not good, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I can breathe, but the crab's still out there. How does peace change that? Internal peace.
Well, it's definitely a mindset. And I think it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think we, as individuals, we get to choose how we respond, because we don't control what goes on around us. We can't control other people. We can't control other things. We can't control the environment, right? We can control our beingness and our way of being in the world and in relationship and in even relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So knowing that we are responsible for everything that happens in our life, and it's not responsible in a shame on you. You're responsible for this. You made a mess. It's like, oh, there's a mess. How do I take responsibility and clean this up, regardless of whose fault it is?
Mm-hmm.
There's a mess on the floor. I don't want anyone to fall. I'm going to clean it up. I don't care if the neighbor did it or my parents did it or the dog or the cat. Who cares? Let's clean it up. And I think that radical revolution of mindset of I'm responsible for everything and everyone's place in the world, it's just such a better way to live. And that's why I love like the whole Ho'oponopono work,
Yeah.
you know, that you teach. And now I'm, you know, it's funny because I've done trainings in it and I forget that I've actually been certified in this stuff because there's so many tools and techniques into this
That's great. It's great.
little, you know, so
No,
yeah.
I love what you just said about being responsible. So there's a mess on the floor, there's a mess in your life, and we could spend all our time being angry at what caused the mess or what made the mess, or we can say there's a mess there. What can I do to clean it up? And it just shifts everything in such a beautiful way. Awesome. All right. Well, we're coming up towards the end of our time together. I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about your yoga that you've been doing, because I've always wanted yoga. Like, how many times did I make an appointment with you and cancel it? Like, so many. Crazy.
All in due time.
I know, that was my own little bracket. And so I've been following your practices that you're doing on Facebook. And I'm really loving the peace that yoga is bringing to my mind, my spirit, and my body. And until you've really gotten into it, like I'm surprised I could even say it that way, but it's really true. It's really true. So tell us what you're up to for bringing more internal peace to people and how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. So right now I'm really enjoying it. I'm doing free yoga, 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time online, streaming on IGTV as well as Facebook, soon to be LinkedIn, just applied. And yeah, just serving people, you know, with the tools of mindfulness through yoga, meditation, breath work, and also putting together a 30-day program called the Internal Peace Revolution Journey.
Ooh.
That launches next month in just a few days, or actually the end of next month. By the end of June, it'll be ready to go. And then there's a membership coming, which I'm super excited about. So that'll be coming out soon. And, you know, I'm enjoying classes and courses that I'm putting together, helping people in business and personally helping people shift from overwhelmed and anxious to passionate and peaceful.
Love it. Oh, it was shifting from overwhelmed and anxious to passionate and peaceful. I like that. Purposeful too, I bet.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, my friend, thank you so much for taking time to bring us peace. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little more peaceful just being in your presence. So thank you so much, Regena. You know how much I love you, and thank you for sharing your truth and turning your mess into successes.
Thank you, Nancy. I love you, and thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and listening.
Tuning in.
Watching, yeah.
Yep, giving yourself a little bit more internal peace. So I trust you enjoyed this week's episode of the Be Real, Get Real podcast. We'll be back next week. And until then, experience radical internal peace, just like Regena talks about. Have a great day, my friend. Bye, everybody. Bye, Regena.
Bye. Thank you.